Well, welcome everyone to the 43rd annual meeting of the Northeast Resource Recovery Association. My name is Reagan Bissonette, and it's great to see so many friendly faces here. But for those who I haven't met, I'm the executive director here at NRRA. I was reflecting on the purpose of this meeting, why we hold our annual meeting each year. And it's really threefold. We want to make sure that we take time to reflect back on the past year and our work together. We also want to make sure that we connect our members together to share information with each other. I know networking is a big part of the value of being a member of NRRA. And then we also want to take an opportunity to celebrate the successes of the organization and you, our members. So it's great to have you here joining us today. And when I look back on the past year, I really think about a lot of investments that we have been making in the organization so that we can ensure that our program services will be available for another 43 years for our members. And of course, the reason that we have this organization and that we partner together is to make sure that recycling can be environmentally and financially sustainable for all of our communities. So the first area that I wanted to highlight that we really made investments in over the last year is expanding our cooperative marketing and technical assistance programs. So we were able to add new cooperative marketing vendors so that our members have more options for recycling electronics, refrigerant, bulbs and ballasts, and scrap metal. And one example is that we worked with one of our members in Vermont to evaluate their scrap metal program. And by switching them from one scrap metal vendor to another, we were actually able to help them more than double the revenue that they were receiving from their scrap metal program. Now, I'm not promising that for everybody, but it's great to check in with our member services team if you have any questions about your programs and how we might be able to help you make adjustments there. So another thing we did is that we made sure that we focused staff time on providing more site visits to transfer stations so that we could work with you all one-on-one in person to talk about the challenges that you have with your recycling programs, to talk about opportunities for cost savings or increased revenue. And one recent example is that Brian Patno, our member services director, had met with the town of Franconia, and they talked about how slow their vertical baler was and how much staff time it took for them to use that. And ultimately, the town was able to purchase a horizontal baler that has saved them so much staff time that they're actually able to open to the public an additional day a week, which is pretty significant. So another area that we've worked on expanding over the last year is our educational opportunities for our members. So we partnered with the Department of Environmental Services to offer 4 workshops on food waste diversion, how to keep food waste out of landfills. And one nice sort of success story that came out of that is that after attending those workshops, the town of Lee worked with the Department of Environmental Services to update their permit so that they could start composting some food scraps on site, which is awesome. And so they're working through that pilot right now. We also worked with communities in the North Country to have conversations about how to increase construction and demolition debris, recycling and reuse, and also for bulky waste. And the town of Littleton actually participated in a pilot project where they identified items that they could set aside for residents to reuse instead of immediately putting them in the C&D. And in just about a month, they were able to keep over 6,500 pounds of material out of the solid waste stream. So that's a pretty, impressive result for a 1-month pilot program. And then also, of course, in terms of education, an important role of ours as an organization, just to make sure that we're engaging in discussions about policy and engaging in statewide or regional conversations about solid waste and recycling. And one way we do that is being a member of the New Hampshire Solid Waste Working Group. And that's actually a group that was designed to help the Department of Environmental Services here in New Hampshire plan for New Hampshire's solid waste future. And you guys will be hearing a little bit more about that later today. And then sort of the last area I wanted to highlight in terms of what we've been doing, investing in the organization over the past year, is really investing in our organizational capacity. So a number of the educational offerings and some of the technical assistance that I mentioned was available thanks to us being able to successfully apply for and receive some grants so that we can provide free technical assistance to our members without having to increase membership dues to cover some of those services, and making sure that we can really reach out to some of the smallest communities that we work with who might not be able to pay for those additional services. We've also invested in our building. I appreciated Joni, our board president's great suggestion to hold our annual meeting here at our building this year, because we will be paying off the mortgage on this in about a year and a half, which is pretty exciting. And of course, what comes with that is investing in the building by making sure that we are maintaining it. We recently had to repave our parking lot. We've been working to improve this space so that we can hold more meetings here. So we're glad that we're able to have this meeting here today and offer it for free for our members. And then last, this is a big one in terms of expanding our organizational capacity, but we are hiring a new municipal recycling advisor. And this is going to be a position that's going to allow us to provide more site visits to communities, more technical assistance, connect our members with more resources and educational materials that we've developed. And I will be letting you know later in this meeting we have that. But in the meantime, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being a member of NRRA. And I'm going to turn this over to Joan Cudworth, our board president, to share a bit about what the board has been working on over the past year.
Not possible. Can you guys all hear me okay? I don't know if I'm coordinated to do both. Before we move forward, we need to vote to approve the meeting minutes from 2023 annual meeting. And everybody should have a copy of those minutes. And if so, is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second? On the second? Okay, are all in favor that we're at the meeting last year? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Wonderful, thank you. So every year I have the honor to give a president's report to the Board of Trustees. But first of all, I want to thank the staff. Staff, for all your hard work and dedication helping educate, move material, and offer any and all assistance to all that ask for help. You are what makes NRRA so special. Bonnie, I'm not sure if this is your last annual meeting or not. I think it is. But I truly want to say thank you for all your hard work over many, many years. I wouldn't be here today without you and all the expertise you taught me over the years. I want to thank you. Thank you. I'd also like to thank the municipalities that are here today. It is because of you that keeps the staff at NRRA so busy. So thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Board of Trustees. Together, they've had 6 board meetings. They've worked to advise and participate in the capital improvements group meetings. They've also supported staff with conference planning. They met for salary and benefits twice, 2 meetings there. I meet with Reagan every month via telephone. We have great conversations. In addition to that, Josh Woodfull served on the New Hampshire Solid Waste Working Group representing communities that source separate. So thank you, Josh. Steve Bullock served on the New Hampshire Waste Management Council as NRRA's appointee. So thank you, Steve. Steve's here. Steve also testified in support of HB 1386, which passed and will prohibit disposal of lithium-ion batteries in landfills and waste-to-energy facilities. That's a big one. Myself, Rhonda, and Steve spoke at one of our 4 food waste diversion workshops that was held with NHDES and NRRA. And Steve Bean participated in a successful C&D and bulky waste diversion pilot program in Littleton as part of our EPA North Country and C&D Diversion 2.0 grant. In addition, I wanted to let folks know today that John Halstead will be stepping down from the board. John has been a member of the board since 1996. So he has served for 28 years. I want to let everybody know that. And in closing, I just want to say thank you for coming today. We got a lot to do, and I'm going to pass it over to the treasurer, Mark.
Good morning. Mark Richardson, and treasurer of the NRRA. I want to echo a lot of the thanks that Joni handed out. What you all do is the most important part of this whole organization. We just kind of help you push things through. But it's an honor to be a director of this organization and to be able to inform you of our finances today and what goes on. I'm going to be brief with that. Basically, I'm going to just tell you that our adjusted total income was $1,100,946.06. Our adjusted total expenses for the year were $986,545.83. So we had a final net income of $422. Pretty good for our future and what we can do with the revenue. I know that we had some expenses, as Reagan alluded to, for maintenance and capital improvements. We improved the HVA system. We replaced the water filtration system. As you mentioned, we did the parking lot. There are a few other things that we did to spend money, which kind of put that line item a little bit over budget. But we have money to, that we have now that our to the point of being able to hopefully build up our capital improvement account and our annual operations fund. We have separate from the from our work that are separate to help plan for the future. So those are the kinds of things that kind of money can go to, as well as giving us a cushion going into the current fiscal year. I think that's about it, unless anybody has a question. Okay, unfortunately, Paula isn't here today. She's ill, so if you have questions, you can feel free to ask me or ask Paula. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark and Joni. So now I'm going to turn this over to Brian Patno, our Member Services Director, and he's going to give us a look at recycling markets. For those of you who come regularly to our MOM meetings, you know that we usually give a snapshot of what the markets are doing. And today we're going to be sort of looking back over the past year, looking back to 2023, what happened with markets this year, and then Brian is going to read into his crystal ball and let us know what we can expect moving forward.
Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So yeah, as Reagan said, I'm the Member Services Director at the NRRA. I love numbers, I love the market, so I love doing this. I also love educating everybody. So part of what I part of this is going to be, why the markets are changing and what we can expect more for the near future and beyond. So, as Reagan said, I'm trying to look into my crystal ball. So it's not accurate. We don't know what the future is going to hold. Especially anytime we have a new president with policy changes, that can affect a lot of it. So we won't know that until, of course, later next year sometime. Yeah, we'll get right on to it. So first, just talk about fibers. That's one of the big ones for our industry. I've always considered fibers to be the heartbeat of our industry. Part of that is because, for most of our facilities, we get a large amount of fibers, both cardboard and mixed paper. And when changes happen, it can really affect us and our bottom line. So as you can see, the top graph there, you can see OCC, which is cardboard. Currently, it's around 85 a ton. You can see that's exactly what it was a year ago, which is very interesting to see. So this past year, it's climbing until a couple months ago, then it did start dropping. All the way back to 10 years ago, it was 90. So it's been pretty steady, minus a few years, during National Sword and COVID rebound and stuff like that. For mixed paper, it's around 45 a ton, about the same amount as last year. Still better than a few years ago, exactly the same as 2014. It was very interesting to see that part. A little hard to see the bottom graph, but that's just the month-to-month change of cardboard from 2004 till current. So you can see it constantly goes up and down, and you can definitely, anybody that's been in this industry long enough, you can tell, the crashes of 2008, 2009, when National Sword hit. The increase right at the end was the rebound from COVID. So corrugated cardboard, OCC, again, it is down another $5 a ton this month. It's now the lowest since exactly a year ago. But overall, 2024 was a pretty good year for cardboard. The average so far is around $106, $107 a ton, which is pretty good. We've definitely seen a lot better. We've seen a lot worse too. So, it's we hate seeing prices go down, but it's been a pretty good year so far. For mixed paper, kind of the same thing. It is down $10 a ton, the lowest since last December. Overall, this year, it's been an average of around $62, $63 a ton. Based on the 2023 average was of $17 a ton. So once again, even though it has declined some in the last few months, it's still a lot better than what it was last year. So kind of what's going on, and I think this is very important. For fibers, in the fall time, a lot of mills have some downtime to do maintenance, repairs, just give their workers a quick break. And that can really affect, you think one mill goes down for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, all of a sudden, all the other mills get overrun with material and get overflowing. So that can affect the pricing. We usually see this in the fall time every single year. So that's just one thing to put in your head for future. Demand, so the box demand. That has been an issue for over a year now. So the demand for boxes is just low right now. It's been, year over year, it's down 5 to 8%, which doesn't seem like a lot. But you think new boxes coming in, 5% less boxes is quite a bit, you think, globally. Overstock, that's another important thing. The, the risk of the strike happening at the dock last month, a couple months ago, made it so a lot of mills ended up buying extra material just in case. And that stoppage only lasted a day. And so all of a sudden, all these mills bought extra material they have on hand, expecting to have to keep it for a while. And now all of a sudden, they can process it. That also put a little bit of a bind recently on it. This adjustment that's been going on the last few months, anybody that's been listening to my market updates since spring, almost every time I've been warning, we do expect it to drop, and we're finally seeing it. This is what everybody's been expecting in the industry. Part of the reason why the prices did go up in the past year was all these new paper mills coming online, and they've been, trying to be very competitive with pricing. So that's kind of increased that market, and now it's starting to even out and just drop the pricing some. Last month was a pretty rough month for moving fibers because of all the mills were full. It is slowly moving now. There is a long line. So while things are moving, you still expect a delay. So the sooner you can let us know you have a load or you're getting close to a load, let us know and Sam will put it on the list. So mixed paper is moving very smooth. That's, cardboard is moving a little easier. Mixed paper is one of the big things, which is just really held right now. Plastics. Oh, this is always a fun one. This is the yearly average price for the big three. The yellow is the HDPE natural. It's always been way up there in price. The red is the HDPE colored, and the green is PET. And you can see it doesn't happen often, but it is happening right now where PET is actually higher than HDPE colored. Once again, you can see, some of the trend lines. The big increase right there was that post-COVID increase in all of our pricing. So, dig down a little bit. Your number one plastic, your PET plastic, currently it's between 12 and 15 cents a pound. Sometimes less, sometimes more, what the mills need at that time. A lot of it depends on the weight you can get in the truck. Not bad. It's been steady for the past 2 months. A year ago, it was around 3 cents a pound. So it has increased quite a bit in the past year, which is great to see. There is very strong demand right now. It's been slowly increasing in pricing since the summer of 2023. During 2023, the market pretty much collapsed. So it is nice to see it coming back a little bit. One thing to note for the PET plastic, there is still a lot of cheap virgin and cheap recycled off-spec material coming in, which is kind of holding back it from going up more. A lot of the cheap off-spec material is coming over from Europe right now. And as that kind of policy changes happen and stuff like that, we're hoping to see a more focus on recycled PET from the US to stay in the US to be made into stuff. HDPE mixed color. So currently, once again, 7 to 10 cents a pound, not bad pricing. We've seen better, we've seen worse. It has increased in the past few months. We did it after a slight couple month crash of this product in the summertime. So it was nice to see it coming back slowly. A year ago, it was around 6 cents a pound, so not much of a change, a little bit of an increase, but not much. And it's funny, that especially the mixed color HDPE market is, really driven primarily by the housing and construction market, which I'll get into a little bit. Okay. Natural HDPE. This is the big one, 45 to 55 cents a pound right now. It's been slowly increasing since last November. A year ago, it was only 9 cents a pound. So that really dropped. There was some worry in the industry a year ago. One of the big users of the HDPE natural kind of stopped taking it for a while, and that really collapsed the market. But now it's come back. Looking at in the past, it's been over $1 a pound. It's been a couple cents a pound. So this is average, good price. You think 55 cents a pound is a little over $1,000 a ton. And of course the demand is always higher for natural HDPE than colored HDPE, just because the manufacturers can then paint this any color they want. They're not limited on the end use as much. One through 7 plastic. This is getting popular the last few years. More and more towns are doing it. This is pretty much, you combine all of your bottles, jugs, containers into one bale. Because you combine it all, you can get more material in it and recycle more and keep more out of the landfill. But at the same time, it is a lot lower price. So some towns like it, some towns don't. Currently, it's about 3 cents a pound. If a year ago, it was at 0. So it has increased a good amount. For that, we've seen it up higher. We're hoping with the recent price increases of the separated plastic that prices will go up 1 or 2 cents a pound soon. Currently, our one big vendor that takes this, they're really interested in the HDPE natural, and then they separate the other stuff, and then it goes off to the different markets, and they resell that stuff. So once again, with plastic prices increasing, we are hoping to see a 1 or 2 cents a pound increase sometime in the next month or two. So I brought this up before for the mixed color HDPE, and I wanted to go into it a little bit more in depth of why the housing market matters with plastic recycling. And this is something you don't really think of. I keep track of it at least once a month, just looking at it. So, if you think of it, PET, one of the big uses is to create rugs. That is maybe not necessarily homes. The rug market for single-family homes is not that what it was 10, 15 years ago, but still in commercial properties and apartment complexes, Rugs are still very popular. HDPE is used a lot in piping and appliances. You think for HDPE pipe, most of the time they can be black, or if the color is not quite right, it's going to be behind a wall, so it doesn't really matter if the coloring is perfect. And polypropylene, number 5 plastic. If you think about it, that is used a lot in appliances. For us as an industry, you look at a dishwasher now, it's mostly plastic. And while 15 years ago, they were mostly metal. So that's one of the big uses. This is the indicator I use the most often, the houses under construction in the US. The latest data I have is from September. So between year over year, September 2024 compared to September 2023, houses under construction is down about 11.46%, which is quite a bit. Single family is down only 4.75%. The big thing, and this gets back to the rug and some of the other things, is the 5+ unit housing developments down 16% of units. It is interesting to note that the Northeast region is the only region that year over year is higher. Every other region in the US has been low. That was pretty interesting. And, looking ahead in general for plastics, I do expect plastics to continue this slow increase for a while. And part of that is as we see businesses continue to add more recycled material to your product, there's going to be a need for it. That means that it is consumer driven. And as the consumers want more recycled product, I think we will see an increase. If that does stop, then I think it'll go down some. But overall, I think we will continue to see that nice little climb. Top one is just the yearly average for aluminum cans. As you can see, that's nice and high. The bottom is like iron and steel cans. I figured it out per pound. There's usually aluminum cans is always per pound. Steel cans and light iron is per gross ton. So I had to calculate it some. You can see definitely aluminum cans, steel cans have been increasing quite a bit. Light iron has been steady. We'll start with aluminum cans. Light iron.
You have light iron.
Light iron, which is your regular scrap metal. Currently, it's between 112 and 153 gross ton delivered. If you do have it picked up, it is less because you have the transportation cost. A year ago, it was between 88 and 122, so it is up around 25% from last November, which is a nice little increase. Dangerous contamination is still an issue. This includes things like the lithium-ion batteries, gas, propane tanks, things like that. That is still a very big issue. Some of our vendors, you will see a possible fine if they find something like that. Other vendors may not have a fine, but their price per ton is going to be less because they incorporate that possibility of finding the contamination into their pricing. But as I said, overall, has been up this year. It is great to see it at these pricing, and it has been steady, which is great for budget season. For aluminum cans, current pricing between 43 and 59 cents a pound, both loose and baled. One of the big differences is loose. Usually have to pay for transportation. Baled, especially if you can get a full tractor trailer load or a 2-stop load of baled steel cans, baled aluminum cans. You know, you can see it's quite a bit more, 72 to 70 cents per pound. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. Demand remains strong for aluminum cans, which is great to see this fall, because usually in the fall, because of the summer demand is over, usually you see a dip. But we did not see that this year, which is great to see. Once again, this is right now the, you know, if you look at the average price for each commodity, aluminum cans is the highest price per pound. Steel cans. Not bad pricing. There's a huge range. And a lot of that is the lower end is, okay, I have a load of non-ferrous and I have a bale or two of steel cans mixed in, you're going to get that lower price. The higher price is usually for a full tractor trailer load, or at least a full tractor trailer load of mixed baled steel cans and baled aluminum. You know, a year ago, 88 to 133 gross ton. So overall, it's higher end is better, lower end is lower. Overall, I think the market is really good for this stuff, even though the market has dropped in the last couple months. The demand has slowed in the past few months for a couple different reasons. Mostly, it's because if the steel cans stay in the U.S., most likely it is used as a fuel for electric arc furnaces to create more scrap metal, more metal. So mills stockpiled a few months ago, looking at possible demand, and then all of a sudden that demand was not there. So all these electric arc furnaces bought extra. Now they have an overflow. Okay. But it did drop the price. Part of that had to do with all year they were expecting the Infrastructure Act to rebuild bridges and stuff like that to really boost the market, and that this year didn't pan out as much as they hoped for. Overall, it is great to see it being used in the United States. I will say that. I think overall for the scrap metal in general, I think for light iron, aluminum cans, steel cans, I think it's going to be pretty much steady. You know, it may fluctuate a little bit here or there, up a few months, down a few months. But overall, I think it's going to be very steady pricing, and I don't see it changing much at all. The big thing is going to be still, especially for the light iron, it's going to be contamination. That's going to be the big key going forward for the next few years. Non-ferrous. I always liked non-ferrous when I ran my transfer stations. I love separating non-ferrous because you get a good amount of money. You think your regular scrap metal is about 6 to 7 cents a pound. And I'll just talk about a few of these. Copper, which is copper piping and stuff like that. You know, that's been ranging between $3.74 to $4 a pound. So even a pound or two of copper separated can add up in a hurry. House wire, which is like your Romex wire, that's about $2.20 a pound. Your cord wire, extension cord, stuff like that. So $1.47 pound, 47 a pound. Pretty good pricing. You do a fiber drum or a 55-gallon drum of cord wire and then sell it for that price. That's some good money. Old aluminum, clean aluminum is pretty much, you're allowed a 5% metal contamination type of thing. Window frames, stuff like that. 61 cents. Doesn't weigh much. It's for the quantity you need to get that weight. It doesn't weigh much. But once again, it's 10 times the value of your regular scrap metal. And then just drained air conditioners. This is a program I used quite often when I was running Littleton and Lancaster. Pretty much after vendor comes in, drains the air conditioner, puts the Freon, stack it up, shrink wrap it. When you get a couple pallets, you can sell it for 15 cents a pound or so. That's not bad pricing. It's, almost 2.5, 3 times the price of if you just throw it in your light iron. A town that has a good non-ferrous separation, even though it does take labor time, I found it's for most years in Littleton and Lancaster when I ran those two, I'd get more the whole year in non-ferrous than I would in the scrap for the whole year, which is amazing. I mean, we had one town in the spring. We helped out. They collected it for a little over a year, had a full tractor trailer load of non-ferrous. They ended up with a check for $25,000. So it's definitely worth the time, in my opinion. But every facility is a little different. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. The only thing I do want to include is looking at 2025. Unless there's some big policy changes that'll happen right off, I think you'll see plastics continue to go up a little bit. I think you'll see fibers, which is your cardboard and mixed paper. I think you will see that drop a little bit in the next couple months, be steady for a while, but then increase some. I'm thinking really it'll increase starting sometime in the springtime, if I had to guess. And metals, I think metals will be pretty much steady for the next year or two. Once again, unless something big for policy changes or a big act comes along, that like an infrastructure act to really redo bridges and stuff like that.
Okay. I'm going to speak into the mic. That way everyone can hear about these great educational resources. So the reason that we're a nonprofit is because we provide education. That's a central tenet to being a nonprofit. And that's not why we are a broker only, which is awesome because it means that in addition to being able to help move your material, we can also try to help make the process a little easier. So this year we had a couple of grants, one through the USDA and one through the EPA, and we were able to do some pretty cool things. So I wanted to share a couple of those things, and we'll see if my clicker works. Oh, yes. So the first thing that we worked on through our USDA grant is we were able to update the New Hampshire the Beautiful signage. I don't think this had been updated in 20 years or ever. For folks who have the signage at your transfer station, you'll know that it had a lot of words that people wouldn't read, and then a lot of details. So what we tried to do is to simplify it. So we're using a lot of images. If you'll remember last year, I talked about an educational resource we created last year were handouts. So we use the same images. These are our handouts. We use the same images that were on our handouts in the signs, really trying to make it so that people can look at their handout or look at their postcard, come to your transfer station or recycling center and see the same images. So, you see tires here, you see tires there. So that was one big one we did. Those are now up and running. The new year for your points has begun. It began November 1st. So Sam has been so busy in putting through lots and lots of sign orders, which has been wonderful. So after this, you go to the next slide, is our sign library. So on the NRRA website, we now have a sign library where basically we took examples that we collected from transfer stations or that transfer stations and recycling centers asked us to create, and we made those into downloadable digital signs. So we have some examples. This one was in Lincoln. They have a lot of Airbnbs up there, and folks need to bring their stuff in, but they want to, mix it all together. I believe they have mandatory recycling. And so this is a very clear sign when you first drive into their transfer station. On this side, we have really been battling a lot of scrap metal contamination as our vendors are really cracking down on it, which is a safety concern, both for operators and folks at processing facilities. So trying to do as much as we can to get the word out. Oh, Brian has one right in the back, actually. He just walked in. These fit in the A-frames through New Hampshire the Beautiful. So again, we have a couple of these scrap metal signs already printed, but we also have it as a downloadable PDF that you can just send to whoever your local sign printing company is, like Staples, and they'll print it out for you. So these are all on our website. This is a dynamic library, which means that as we hear about more sign needs, we'll keep creating them. By we, I mean me. I will keep creating them and then put them up there for you. So through the same USDA grant, another big project we worked on this year, and it's a little hard to see on this screen, is a compost and food waste diversion map of New Hampshire. This took a lot of work, but we believe it to date is the only map of its kind to exist in the state. So it looks at the first thing that you come to, and I encourage you to look on our website for this. The first thing you'll come to is our compost service locator. You can put your address right up there, and it will really zoom in on your house. But you'll be able to see what kind of food waste diversion services might be in your area. Some of these are free through your transfer station or through a community building. Some of them are paid services. If you want to take it a little bit more step-by-step, other options in the same map, as you can see, these are the farms that are offering on-site composting at a farm that will take some municipal food scraps. We also have residential pickup service areas. You'll notice that these ones, you can actually see it on this map, a lot on the seacoast in southern New Hampshire, and then we've got like a little spot in Keene, and then this is up in Lebanon. And then finally, we have different municipalities that will take food scraps in some way. Again, this might be at a transfer station, it might be through a community center, it might be that pickup options are available. So this has been a really exciting map. It's really important as well. It adds to the state coming up with the ban on food waste disposal for 1-ton generators. The state is working on that aspect, but we expect that as folks are more and more interested in diverting their food waste, we want to give them the tools to be able to do that. So for the past 2 years, we've had 2 back-to-back EPA grants that have allowed us to really partner with communities up in the North Country to look at construction and demolition debris diversion. and bulky waste. So this year, our focus was on trying to really divert that C&D. Last year, we were trying to understand the issue, see what we could possibly do about it. This year, we did some feasibility studies. We did some diversion pilots. We did mattress diversion. And we put this all together in one toolkit. You'll probably remember that we have several toolkits. They're super helpful. And our C&D toolkit is equally as helpful. There's information on deconstruction. It's not something that people really do in New Hampshire. We tried to get deconstruction experts up in here, and they basically said, you don't have the economy of scale. You don't have enough material for us to come do this. So we're trying to at least give the tools so that if individual contractors would like to give it a go, they're able to do that. So again, actually everything that I just talked about is on our website. If you ever have any questions, I am an email away. And we're looking forward to continuing our work with our next grant that is already underway. This is our big EPA Consumer Recycling Education and Outreach Grant, where we'll be working again up in the North Country, and we're really excited to do so.
Thank you, Andrea. So we are moving from the part of our presentation we've been looking over the last year. We've been sharing some of our new resources with you all. And now I would like to invite our panelists to join us up here. We are really happy to have a panel discussion today talking about transfer station safety. It's such an important issue, and we continue to see even more battery fires, more hazardous materials showing up in scrap metal. And so we thought it would be great to bring in a panel of 3 experts to talk with you today about what we can do to improve transfer station safety. And I'm going to be turning this over to Brian Patno, our Member Services Director, to moderate this panel discussion. And I just would like to acknowledge we have Steve Bean, a trustee here at NRRA and the transfer station manager in Littleton. We also have Representative Karen Ebel, who is the chair of the New Hampshire Solid Waste Working Group. And then we also have Kenneth Vilpula, who's also a trustee of NRRA and works at the Molten Borough Transfer Station. And Brian, I will turn this over to you to talk about this very timely topic. And we definitely want to leave time for some Q&A at the end as well for all of you.
Well, hello again. Yeah, just once again, I'm Brian Patno. I'm the Member Services Director. Safety has always been a real big concern of mine when I was running transfer stations, so I'm really honored to be involved in this. I'll let you guys just quickly introduce yourself again, and we'll go from there.
I'm Steve Bean, manager of the Littleton Transfer Station. I've been in the industry 11 years now. I've been manager almost 4, and I've been on the board of trustees for 2 years. So.
My name is Karen Ebel. I'm a state representative. I just won my 7th term. And I am the chair of New Hampshire's stakeholder group for the state. It's called the Solid Waste Working Group, and it has many members that represent industry, municipalities, and Reagan is a member of that representing the NRRA. I represent the towns of New London and Newbury. I was born and raised in Ossipee, not far from Molten Borough.
Ken Vilpula, town of Molten Borough Transfer Station. I've been at the facility almost 16 years, and also a trustee member of the NRRA.
Thank you, guys. So one of the first things when we do talk about safety is, we have to identify the areas of safety, the problems that we have. So can you guys just briefly explain some of the safety-related issues you have experience with at transfer stations or the state?
Unfortunately, with safety, usually there's an incident that brings up brings it to mind, right? Something that happened. Earlier last spring, we had a wall-mounted heater in the office, and fortunately, we were working that day, and we ended up coming up. One of my workers were hollering at me, so I ran up the stairs, and in my office was a wall-mounted heater that was smoke was billowing out of it. Fortunately, it was wall-mounted, so I was able to unplug it, throw it out into the parking lot where it burst into flames. And we don't know if it was because the filters were dirty or if it was just the defective product. So it's something to make sure the filters are clean, and maybe after it's been there a couple of years, maybe replace it. The town of Littleton was able to purchase a mini split right after that. I had a lot of leverage at that point. We just had a fire, so that's what we're doing now. The second thing I wanted to discuss, we actually had a skid steer incident with a resident. We were in a working area. My operator was backing out of the building. A resident pulled back into the working space, and they collided. Anybody that drives a Bobcat, you know that the visibility is terrible in reverse. Fortunately, we had security cameras, so we were able to send that to the insurance company. Nobody was hurt, luckily, and that got settled. And simple things like getting in and out of loaders, Bobcats. We've had a few instances where, the 3-point of contact, your feet are covered with ice. We've had a couple of people that have slipped and fell, minor injuries, but still something basic you do 100 times a day. You just need to be cautious all the time. I think that's all I got for now.
Okay. So as I mentioned, I'm the chair of the solid waste working group, and one of the big things that we do is we work with DES, and you guys may know that recently the state passed a new solid waste management plan. And in the solid waste management plan, there are several goals. One of them is the goal of keeping solid waste related employees safe. So, we have looked at safety issues. And then the other thing is to reduce toxicity in the waste stream. So recognizing that, Solid Waste Working Group looked at various options for research and for supporting legislation. And based on the input of the members of the group, we introduced 2 bills or supported 2 bills based on safety and toxicity concerns. One was to ban the disposal in landfills and transfer stations of lithium batteries because of the fire risk. And then the other one, and we can talk more about this, is to reduce the number of consumer products which have packaging and whatever that are thrown away in the transfer stations and in the landfills with these forever chemicals called PFAS. So that's and that would reduce exposure to these hazardous chemicals at the workplace and also in our water and just to the people of our state.
Talk about the security system we have at the Molten Borough transfer station. About 12 years ago, we had a kind of an antiquated system installed, and we had an incident where a commercial trash hauler fell into the compactor. It kind of fall and ended up getting seriously hurt, having to be transported. And fast forward, we had Primex came in, and our insurance carrier, they said our surveillance system really isn't to what it should be. And so the town decided to put monies into upgrading our surveillance system. So we added more cameras around the facility. So we have coverage around the facility 24/7. And myself and the staff have found that it's a very valuable tool in one, not just for safety, but to check the demolition cans to make sure there's no contaminants in there. So that can fall under the safety, to see where staff are, to make sure that there hasn't been any accidents or incidents. And also one of my staff members gave me a call this morning that one of the residents did fall into one of the demolition cans. So we're going to be pulling up that footage to see exactly what happened, who was at fault, if there's any error. And it's just been a great tool for everybody at the transfer station. And our long-term goal is once we get a reliable internet service, we're going to tie it into the life safety building. So therefore, if there's a fire or if there's an incident where police are need to be involved, they're well aware as to what's going on before they get on scene. It's, for what it's worth, it hasn't been a very expensive investment. But it's been a very, very valuable tool to keep the staff and the residents safe and just eyes on everything. As we all know in this industry, things happen so quickly, so fast. And if we have a camera to video tape it, we're better off. So it's not he said, she said. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I love hearing how, you guys are not only looking out for the operator, also the residents, the users of your facility. So how do you proactively address issues going forward? For me, at least my task, I know that's always been the issue. It's always been set in your ways. You've been working at the facility for so long. Sometimes you don't think of it until something happens.
Like with our wall-mounted heater, we were able to replace it with a mini split, so that's basically taking care of itself. The skid steer collision, we started to put cones up, and anytime we were bailing something, so it was pretty obvious that it was a working area, even though we felt it was anyway. But put cones up now. The new Bobcat that we purchased last year came complete with a backup camera. I'd heavily recommend that. Because all you gotta do is glance up and you can see a panorama of everything behind you. So that's how we help that situation. Yeah, I got a few other things like the DDR batteries. We get Logan seems to get a lot of, they come in, they're swollen, they're leaking. We immediately get them into a steel box, or if we don't have a steel box, a plastic box with some sand in it. We make our own little kit, and then as soon as our electronics get shipped, we make sure that all those leave the facility as fast as they can.
I indicated this in what I said before. I mean, there were two bills that we decided to explore at the Solid Waste Working Group, and one had to do with lithium battery disposal, and the other had to do with PFAS products that have PFAS added to them. I think it's important to know that the value of the Solid Waste Working Group is folks like you guys. They are represented on the Solid Waste Working Group. And so when there are concerns, they can be expressed, as really the one on lithium came straight from the membership, and they said, we've just got to do something about lithium battery disposal because of the hot fire hazard. And I was just looking at one of your members who were just elected there from Lee, and I know that was where one of the big fires was from lithium batteries. So basically, because I'm the chair of the group and I'm also a representative, I was the one that introduced the two bills. One banning, as I said, lithium-ion battery disposal and landfills and that sort of thing, precisely because of the fire risk issues. And that bill also has with it a requirement for municipalities to put something on their websites, just a link or something that talks about the hazards of lithium batteries and talking about how people can't just throw them into the bins. This is a hazard. We can talk about quite a while if we want to, but I introduced a bill to limit the addition of PFAS to a variety of consumer products, including cosmetics, food packaging, furniture, children's products, and several other things. Carpet, just with the idea of trying to keep the PFAS out of the waste stream in our water and soil.
Ways we addressed our safety issues for clients is, as Brian was saying, you kind of get into your routine of every day of same thing. Is to change it up is we painted the edges of the trip areas like the C and D with approximately a foot 16-inch wall. We paint those yellow, we keep them sharp, we move sawhorses around. We have construction barrels that are the orange and the stripes. Just so people don't get a blind eye. We change the signs every once in a while, and that helps. And the other thing is having staff reminding residents if they need a hand offloading or direction, please approach one of us, will help you out. And safety is everybody's concern to get them in and out as quick as possible and safely. Thank you.
Okay, kind of going on to kind of challenges. What problems have you guys encountered with implementing better solutions, to some of the safety issues you've identified?
Our biggest challenge is coming up in the winter. I don't know, we don't work alongside our public works department. So if you get in on a Saturday morning and the place is a sheet of ice, the highway guys are busy doing their thing, and we're out there with coffee cans trying to sand any spot that the people might have to be. That's a huge challenge because it's the whole facility, and you're just trying to keep the residents safe and your employees safe. I'd be up for any suggestions there because it's really difficult to. And you sometimes will salt a certain area, and then somebody will drive like in a spot completely away from where we salted. We had a guy fall a few winters ago. He basically was getting away from the general crowd, and then he had a fall. I don't know what the answer to that is, other than we don't have any equipment that has any spreaders or sanders on it. But winter in general, between the cold, anytime this super cold weather, we try to rotate people in and out of the building as much as we can. Yeah, that environmental piece is tough.
Well, for me, the challenge is really easy. It starts with the letter P, politics. And I know that's something that nobody is tired of hearing about around here. But I have to say overall, even though we have the politics fatigue, I continue to be excited about the opportunities that we can develop moving forward regarding solid waste in the state of New Hampshire. I think we've already done some really good things. As I alluded to, we finally do have a solid waste management plan, which we hadn't had for about 20 years. I think all the focus on solid waste recently, from the new landfill that was being proposed up north to just the general discussions in the state, have helped focus the legislators on solid waste, and also try to beef up the budget a little bit to try to help municipalities more. One of the things, so I'm going to talk just a little while, but one of the things I just want to talk about is that we were successful in getting $1 million into the solid waste management fund, and the concept there is to try to set up a grant program for municipalities and for businesses, so that if they want to make improvements at their transfer stations, or if they want to have a food waste program or something like that, that will be a resource for towns. The state recently hired someone who's going to be overseeing getting that program off the ground, and hopefully it'll be rolling out soon. I'm going to try to get, I'm going to introduce a bill and try to get more money into that fund, because I feel like, if we're all paying taxes, it would be good to get money directly as an option to our municipalities where it's really needed. So funds are short, but we'll see how that works. So just getting back to the issue that we were talking about, the two pieces of legislation that I introduced on lithium and PFAS. I mean, the process is that there are hearings in Concord. And if you want to bring forth a piece of legislation and be effective, you really have to build a coalition that supports it. You can't just walk in there and say, this is a good idea, guys. What do you say? And I think the reason that some of the legislative initiatives that we've put forth through the Solid Waste Working Group have been successful is because of the coalition building that we did. And so we've really been able to proceed on a very bipartisan basis. And I'm excited about that. And NRRA has been a great resource in helping educate me so I can present a better story. Anyway, it goes through a hearing process, has to go to the House and the Senate, and if everybody is in agreement after, hammering out a lot of issues, and there's always a lot of sausage making behind the scenes, especially if money is involved, it goes to the governor. And was really pleased that the governor signed into law the lithium-ion battery disposal ban bill and also the PFAS bill. So for the battery bill, the effective date is July 1st of 2025. And there's going to be a lot of ramping up for the PFAS bill, but that will be officially effective January 1st, 2027.
Just to go off what Steve was saying, we're coming up on, of course, the snow season as well. And again, the surveillance system plays a good part in it. We can see where the icy spots are, where the snow buildup is. And with today's technology, you can even have an app tied to your phone so that way you know what's going on before you even get into work. So I could reach out to highway department and ask them to run through with a truck and cut a path, throw down sand, and make it safe for us to at least to get in, go in early and get ready to go, and then start throwing the coffee cans of sand and salt around and make it safe for all the residents. So again, the surveillance pays off in that regard as well. Thank you.
I just wanted just quickly before we get to Q&A about especially the winter months and all that fun stuff. I do want to bring up the point where tons of sand, amongst the tons of salt is still a lot cheaper than a workman's comp or lawsuit. So remember that. So, and thank you. I know politics is not fun, but
Oh, it's a blast.
it's nice to have a voice higher up again. So I know that was one of the biggest struggles when I first started working at a transfer station is we would have all these concerns and wouldn't go. Thank you. We'll open it up to Q&A now. So
my question goes to deals with batteries and hazardous waste, and that is the vape pens that are labeled disposables that have the lithium batteries in them. I just recently saw a workshop on that, and the cost associated with getting rid of those is extremely high. Questions to the panel on how to deal with those, cost of dealing with those, maybe some legislation to put it back into the producer's responsibility. But that's going to be a big issue for a lot of us is dealing with those disposables. How to get them out of the waste, because people are going to say they say disposable, throw them away, and we're going to end up with problems with them. And I just want to put that out there.
I think most people, like you said, are throwing away, but we haven't seen very many. We've had literally just a few, maybe 2 to 3 that we've seen come in that people have given us. And honestly, we don't seem to have a lot of direction right now with that product. So we're just sitting on 2 or 3 in a container, waiting for something better to come down the road, honestly.
Well, I was in the same boat as you, Steve. We have a handful of them, and we're not really sure what to do with them just yet. Every once in a while, I'll check out to Call to Recycle and see what their recommendations are, and they don't know what to do with them. So we're kind of in a holding pattern.
The nicotine puts them in hazardous waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bonnie can probably tell me more. What is it about for an HHW event? Yeah, it's what is it, like $350 for a 5-gallon pail. If it has one in it, still that amount. If it's full, it's still that. Right. So it's very expensive.
She didn't get that price from me, Brian. No, I think I can, if you don't mind, I can chime in a little bit on that. So my name's Brett. I'm with Environmental Projects for household hazardous waste vendor. Really quick on that. Yeah, that is a massive problem. We're still in the same issues in the state of Maine. Currently, right now, pricing is right around $850 for a 5-gallon pail, whether there's one in it or it's full. Actually, right, the nicotine pushes it into a delisted waste, hazardous waste, which is acutely toxic, for those that don't know. It does pose a significant issue. One of the bigger issues that we run into in Maine is the legalization of marijuana. So one of the things that we run into with that, with trying to get rid of it through a household hazardous waste collection or a hazardous waste facility, is that those two, nicotine versus the THC, needs to be separate. And I don't do that stuff, so I couldn't tell you what the difference between this vape pen and that vape pen is. So it's a very big challenge. It truly is a challenge. So because then you're dealing with a scheduled drug versus the nicotine that's acutely hazardous. Then of course you mix in the lithium battery, of course, along with it. Interestingly enough, we do a lot of work with a couple of different universal waste haulers as well. They cannot touch the stuff because of the nicotine. We are more than happy to touch the stuff and to get it going as long as the marijuana is not part of it. It's very expensive to dispose of. So yeah, legislation is obviously tough. What you follow with the generator status, where you start accumulating something, you have X amount of days before you need to get rid of it off of your site. It's not really a universal waste because of the nicotine. It is a household hazardous waste, so it's exempt. There's a lot of gray areas there, but you're 100% correct. It is a very big challenge to do. We're getting a lot of questions from schools, because a lot of the schools are running into these issues as well, setting up locations like drop boxes for stuff like that. So it's interesting. So yeah, sounds like you have something to work on.
I do have a comment, not maybe so specifically on vape pens per se, but the issue of batteries has we've been talking about it quite a bit at the solid waste working group. We just decided as a first step we would do the lithium ion battery ban disposal, but there's obviously a much bigger issue with these things. I mean, there's embedded batteries, there's all sorts of things. So one of the things we talked a lot about as far as legislation is concerned is introducing a bill that would be extended producer responsibility for batteries. And it would be all sorts of batteries. And what that would include is there would be a small fee on batteries that people buy. And then they would bring the batteries to wherever, that would have to be worked out, whether it's a transfer station. But in I'll call them EPR, in the EPR programs, the fees are paid up front, and Call to Recycle just comes and gets the batteries, and there's no real charge except for some other related issues, but there's no real charge to municipalities then for the collection of the batteries. And there's a wide variety of batteries that would cover. So we looked at it, and the thing is that there's only 4 states, 4 plus Washington, D.C. so far, that have battery EPR bills. There's a lot of states that are considering it. There's still some issues that need to be worked out, specifically with respect to lead acid batteries, whether they're included, whether they're not. And on balance, we decided that we were just going to wait a year and see how all those things sorted out. But in that discussion, a lot of the problem is these embedded batteries, because Call to Recycle doesn't really want your kids' sneakers with little light up batteries in them. So I don't know how all of that's gonna shake out eventually, but I feel like there is going to be a battery EPR bill on our horizon. whether it's next year or, you know, a couple of years. I will say again, as far as what I alluded to before, coalition building is really, really key. So if that's something that municipalities are really interested in, you guys have really, you know, state reps. We have small districts, and the voices of the individuals that come in and speak, especially with respect to the people's own towns, they really carry a big impact. So we're going to be tracking the battery issue pretty closely in the next year.
Along those lines, you mentioned the embedded batteries. I'm curious, when the working group looked at batteries, battery-related fires are a huge issue, not just in New Hampshire, but throughout the country. Is your sense that it's loose batteries that our truck drivers and transfer station operators are missing, or is the issue really the embedded batteries that people forget are in there?
I think it's more it's the embedded batteries. But the problem is, you know, whenever you have anything like this, confusion is not your friend. You know, and it's just makes it, I think, difficult for the transfer stations to monitor what's coming in. And so that's why, again, we started with lithium ion batteries, which are really clear. You know, you take them off of your Roby screwdriver or whatever, and that's where you target. But I think I mean, these guys maybe would know better as far as that sort of thing. But from the working group standpoint, I think the embedded batteries are an issue. I guess, Reagan, maybe you can remember this. I think that Vermont, they have an EPR bill, and they are not yet, they're studying how to handle embedded batteries. I think that was the
tough one, because the battery manufacturers don't want to be responsible for it.
Right. And, you know, Call to Recycle doesn't want to, as I say, have your sneakers and your light up cards or whatever. So remains
I'm concerned about the EPR as a solution to something. If you're providing a funding source for somebody that won't take the product that's causing.
Well, it depends on you know, we were thinking about, you know, AA batteries, that sort of thing. We weren't thinking about EPR at that point for the really small embedded batteries. But I guess I would say, just in thinking about it again, that's why we said in the bill, lithium ion batteries. So it was really clear, just as a starting point, that that's what the ban applied to. Yeah.
Representative Eagle, can you give us an update on what's happening with the landfill application up north?
I mean, that's a really, they have, I can't give you there are people that are so on top of this, but there has been another application filed. And it's, you know, it's multifaceted. There are wetlands issues, there are all sorts of things. I would say the general drift in the legislature is that nobody is super excited about it, especially because of, you know, the issue in New Hampshire where the landfills, the private landfills take about half of their waste from out of state. And I mean, if that doesn't bother you, I don't know. In Ossipee, we're like, oh, I'm not taking Massachusetts' waste. But anyway, the thing is that a landfill is just kind of a toxic place for our state. You know, the leachate, the liquids that come out of it, they have all kinds of toxic chemicals in them. They end up going to our wastewater treatment plants. They have to be treated. There's a lot of stuff that goes into the water. Then our drinking water utilities pick it up. They're required to treat it. It costs bazillions of dollars to do it. And, you know, to me, New Hampshire should be dealing with the issues for its own trash and not regional trash, where part of the reason it's coming to us is because in the region, in other states, they're really clamping down on landfilling. We provide a less expensive option, or an option at all. In some places, landfills that just got a moratorium. That's a long answer, but there's that discussion is not going to go away. It was really a big discussion during the campaign. And I just read this morning that our new governor has said she's opposed to it. So in that location.
Any other questions?
I had one. Representative Ebel, you mentioned that you had a list for PFAS. Some of us are MS4 communities, excuse me, and some of us aren't. On your PFAS list, do you see brown lawn and leaf bags on that list? We don't have that. No. I mean, go ahead, but we can talk about this. Well, it's been brought to our attention that our compost is not worth anything because of the PFAS in the brown lawn and leaf bags. I see this as a very big and upcoming problem for a lot of municipalities. And if it's not on your radar, I hope that you would consider putting it on your radar, because a lot of us collect leaves, grass, manure, all sorts of things. And it's problematic if we have PFAS and if we are an MS4 community, such as the town that I work for. So I will say, I mean, I blithely sat here and said, we got this bill passed. This was probably one of the hardest things I've done in my life, certainly legislatively, but it you know, New Hampshire doesn't come, I guess, how you say, genetically towards a bill that restricts things. And so we really had to build a very broad coalition to get the bill that was passed through, and it included groups that will have never been on the same page before, really very environmentally oriented groups, landfill operators, compost council, the U.S. Compost Council. There were so many people that were involved, and I think it's unique to PFAS that you could bring this many people together, because it just affects all of us, and in such small quantities, and the harm to our health is so potentially extreme. So the thing is that there's a national movement to remove PFAS from products, and different states are approaching this in different ways, but there are maybe 11 to 12 products that are being uniformly, wherever these bills have passed, being uniformly banned. And so it involves several of the products I included in this bill. If you step outside those few products, it gets so much more challenging, because New Hampshire does not want to be the first one on the map to ban anything. And it's also really complicated for a manufacturer to have a product in place for one state, and then you end up, well, you have this product ban in place, and maybe the state just won't even get the product because nobody else is banning it. That said, we passed a bill on food packaging, that the ban for food packaging, and to the extent that it helps sort of broaden out the idea of banning it from certain plastics. So that's a long way of saying those particular bags are not on the list. There are, I think over the course of the next 10 years, there are a few states that are trying to ban everything that has PFAS. It's just a really, really hard lift. It's such a hard lift. And at this point, I talked a little bit about landfill leachate, which is this horrible stuff that comes out of landfills, hundreds of millions of gallons, and it's going to our wastewater treatment plants. And at this point, the government has not required wastewater treatment plants to take the PFAS out of what they ultimately release into the water, that our drinking water folks are having to deal with. The problem is that the EPA, now that may change, but the EPA has implied that they're going to start requiring wastewater treatment plants to filter out PFAS. And I can't even guess how much that would cost. So the thing is, we have, as you were alluding to, we've got to stop using it in our products. because it just gets everywhere. I don't know how many people are fishermen. You're not supposed to eat freshwater fish from certain lakes in New Hampshire. It's just really, so I'm sorry that was such a long answer, but it's very, it's very complicated. And, there were still plenty of people in the legislature that didn't support it. And when it finally got through, it was kind of nip and tuck whether it would be signed into law. But now that it has been, people are just so happy about it, me included.
A little behind schedule, but I wanted to give just one more question if anybody has them.
Just more of a plug, I guess, than anything, that I would encourage talking about the disposal issues. As much regional engagement as possible. And I say that embarrassed now as a Massachusetts resident and somebody that works in Connecticut, both of which used to be states that were very strong on being no net importer or exporter states. Both have become net exporter states. And one of the biggest problems has been when you go to a local meeting, it's padded with NIMBYs and it's padded with people that are delusional about the success and efficacy of our diversion efforts. Mm-hmm. And it's not represented at all by the people that are going to take this waste. So the folks that are impacted, whether it's New Hampshire, Ohio, Pennsylvania, or now as far away as Alabama, that are receiving this waste aren't there. And they're not there to counter that narrative. And so I would encourage as much as possible to talk to your counterparts in the other states that have become the net exporters, particularly Massachusetts, because I can't be embarrassed enough by our solid waste management plan, given what it started at in the 90s versus what it's become, which is essentially trucks to New Hampshire.
Well, I'm pretty proud of the fact that we got our PFAS bill passed and Massachusetts didn't. Sorry, I hope you do. Sometimes we need some bragging rights.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you again to our panelists. It's really great to keep safety on the forefront, and I really appreciate being able to hear from both operators who are managing safety issues on the ground at transfer stations, and then also to hear from Representative Karen Ebel about bigger picture policy and ways we can proactively take steps to keep our operators safe and our public safe. I do want to acknowledge that Representative Karen Ebel is the elected official here in New Hampshire who is really focused on recycling and solid waste. She's put a tremendous amount of time and energy over the years in sort of championing these issues, and so I really appreciate you making the time to join us today. And move on to a really fun part of our annual meeting, which is taking the time to recognize the work of our members and vendor each year by celebrating the ways in which they have served their communities and served our members. So our first two award recipients, unfortunately, were not able to join us today in person. They had very important prior commitments that they couldn't change. But I'm really delighted to recognize that we have a new honorary lifetime member for NRRA. And this is the membership category that was created in recent years by our Board of Trustees for us to recognize those former volunteers and former staff of NRRA who had contributed 10 years or more of service to the organization and who are now retired. And so this year we're able to award an honorary lifetime membership to Liz Bedard, who really has played a very important role in the development of NRRA. So Liz actually was one of the founding members of our organization. She was one of the names on our charter, and she was an executive director here for many years. And she has really been a lifelong advocate for recycling and solid waste. Starting with her, she most recently worked for national organizations, including the Association of Plastic Recyclers and the Recycling Partnership. And she actually was Bonnie's mentor at UNH and played a big role in Bonnie's career and joining NRRA over 20 years ago. So I would just like to ask for a round of applause to recognize. We also have our Continuing Education Award. And so this is an award that we developed to recognize a solid waste facility operator who has really gone above and beyond by attending so many NRRA events in the past year that they have greater than anyone else, because that's a really impressive thing. And so in this case, we are able to award this to Suzanne Simon, who is with the town of Thetford and is their transfer station coordinator. And so over the past year, Suzanne accrued over 20 hours of continuing education credit by attending events. She attended mob meetings. She attended some of our food waste diversion workshops that we put on with the Department of Environmental Services. She attended our conference. And, you know, we really appreciate that her passion for this industry is very clear in the ways that she asks so many questions at this event. She's very engaged when she attends our workshops at our conference. And of course, she's able to bring that information back to the town of Thetford to support recycling and waste diversion in her community. So for both of these award winners, we'll be, you know, sending a certificate to them to thank them. And of course, they were very appreciative to receive these awards. So a round of applause. And next is our Business of the Year Award, our Vendor of the Year Award. And this is an award that we give each year to a company that partners with NRRA, who provides an excellent service to our members in support of our cooperative marketing or purchasing programs. And this year, we're delighted to offer this award to Environmental Projects, Inc., EPI, and we have Brett Rogers, the Vice President, joining us today. And as you already heard a little bit of, EPI has been a household hazardous waste vendor for NRRA for 10 years, actually. And, you know, we're all aware of the complexities of managing household hazardous waste. It's a very expensive service, but rightly so because of the hazardous material that's involved. And so we have worked for over 10 years with EPI to partner with communities to bring one-day hazardous waste collection events, and also to help communities when you have waste oil or you have some kind of an unexpected surprise that has been dropped off at your transfer station that you don't know what to handle, or those, you know, unidentified liquids that someone bring in. And one thing we really appreciate about working with EPI is just the extensive knowledge of all of the staff, the ability to answer these questions. I mean, we already heard from Brett some of his input on, you know, handling batteries, you know, and other items that come up in, you know, our material that our members drop off. So, you know, we routinely get positive feedback from our members about those household hazardous waste events with EPI. You know, when we look back over some of the feedback that we receive, I know Bonnie does a great job of checking in with each of our members after they have an HHW event, just to see how it went. And we routinely and consistently hear from our members how much they've appreciated working with the staff at EPI. We're told how professional they are, how friendly they are, how easy they are to work with, how helpful they are and knowledgeable. And, you know, Brian, who used to work at a transfer station, he actually shared that working alongside EPI at HHW events is one of his fondest memories of working at a transfer station, because the EPI staff do a great job of making it an enjoyable experience, you know, no matter what the weather is, no matter how busy of a day it is. And so for those reasons, we are really delighted to award to EPI our Business of the Year Award. So much.
Well, no, thank you guys very much. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Real quick, I would love to just real quickly say some stuff. You know, the past 10 years have been great. It's been a lot of fun working with all the towns and just everybody being on board these Saturdays. you know, half the battle's getting there, but when you're there, you might as well have fun with it anyways. So that's kind of what we try to do in our motto with it. One of the things we've tried to do for years is provide an honest service for an honest price. And one of the things that we've always done at our company is try to make it a place where everybody wants to work, everybody wants to be a part of. And we really truly do look at our team at API as family. And when we go out to our clients, we try to treat them as family as well. So I am glad you guys are enjoying the experience. Sounds like you are, and I know that we certainly are as well. So maybe for another 10 more great years or beyond that. So we look forward to doing work with you guys. Thank you very much.
To our Rookie of the Year award. And so this is an award that we give each year to an innovative solid waste facility operator who is new to their position. And this year we are delighted to award Alex DeCoste, who is with the town of Gilmington as the transfer station foreman. So Alex joined the staff in Gilmington with no prior experience in solid waste management. And we all know what a tough industry this is to get up to speed on. I mean, just the acronyms alone are a challenge. We actually keep a list of acronyms for all of our new staff so they can figure out MSW, C&D, HHW. And so Alex arrived sort of in a particularly hard place because due to staff turnover and other reasons, the town had actually shut down the recycling programs temporarily. And so it was, part of Alex's role was to come in and restart those recycling programs. And he really has done that incredibly well. So Alex has been in touch with our staff here to ask questions about some of the programs that we work with the town on. I know Brian went out to do a site visit and to meet with Alex. And one of the things that our staff has been really impressed with is just the questions that Alex has had, the willingness to learn, the thinking outside the box on how to improve what you guys were doing before. So for example, you guys have started separating scrap metal so that you can make more money from non-ferrous. And so seeing where your program was when you joined the town and where you brought it to today, where just this morning you said that, well, things are pretty much in maintenance mode. I mean, things are going smoothly now. I mean, that is a tremendous accomplishment. And we're really excited to see where you are in another year. So thank you so much for your contributions to your town, and congratulations on your award.
Yeah, thank you.
The little bird also told me it was your birthday yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah, guys. Thank you.
And did I also happen to see something that you wrangled a loose bull?
Yeah.
On the side of the road once?
Yeah.
On the news.
Yeah, he was a little aggressive, but we took care of it real quick.
So a real jack of all trades. Thank you, Alex. And last, this brings us to our final award, which is our Recycler of the Year award. And this is a Lifetime Achievement Award that we give to an individual who really exemplifies the qualities of commitment and leadership and enthusiasm in developing. We're really pleased to give this award to Steve Bean, who is a transfer station manager for the town of Littleton. So Steve joined the transfer station about 10 years ago, and he became only the fourth transfer station manager for the town of Littleton that they've had since they opened their facility in the 1990s. So really filling a role with a long history there of people staying in that role for a long time. But Steve started his career with service in the U.S. Marines, and I want to acknowledge that because, of course, Monday was Veterans Day. And that included time overseas. So thank you for that commitment, Steve. And then before working at the town of Littleton, he actually worked at a paper mill. So from one side of, now he's recycling paper, and before that he was creating paper. But, in his role as a solid waste manager, as we know, that role involves wearing a lot of hats. You need to hire and supervise staff, which is increasingly tough these days to hire people to work at a transfer station. You need to prepare and present the budget to the Board of Selectmen, overseeing day-to-day operations, ensuring compliance with DES, marketing material. I mean, the list goes on. And, on top of doing all of that well, Steve also is the kind of person who makes the time to go and present to schools about recycling, and to offer tours of the transfer station so that the next generation can learn about waste reduction. And then also Steve joined the Board of Trustees at NRRA 2 years ago. And I have to say that in those 2 years, Steve has been one of the most active board members we have in terms of volunteering his time to support the organization. So, Steve, you attend just about every event we put on. You're very consistent, with supporting our activities. And then Steve also, he was a member of our Capital Reserve Working Group, which helped create the capital improvement plan for this building. He's volunteered for what we call our solid waste advisory team, where we bring experienced operators to a town to give sort of an evaluation and give advice on some challenges that a town might be facing. And Steve has also served on our conference planning committee to help us plan for last year's conference. And then, as we talked about a little bit earlier, we also had been working with communities in the North Country, in particular over the past 2 years, talking about construction and demolition debris, recycling and reuse. And Steve oversaw the pilot program that was in the town of Littleton that resulted in so much waste being given to residents for reuse instead of thrown away. And I love this quote when we asked Steve for his feedback on how that pilot program went. Here's what he said. "We are more conscientious about setting stuff aside. At first, it became a game. We would constantly ask each other, what can we divert? Now it has become part of our routine." And so really that attitude of making it fun and looking outside the box and finding ways to, work with communities, not just your own community, but partnering with neighboring communities to increase recycling and reduce waste is exactly what we're looking for with someone who receives our Recycler of the Year award. So please give a round of applause to Steve.
Wrestle the bull though.
Not yet.
It's almost, okay.
And now this is a great opportunity for me to also share that Steve is actually going to be our new municipal recycling advisor at NRRA. Yes. We look forward to having him join us starting next month. So thank you all to all of our boardmen. Congratulations. We really appreciate all that you do to support recycling and waste reduction for your communities and our members. And now I will turn this over to Joan Cudworth for a vote on our board slate and to close out our annual meeting.
Thank you.
Just a reminder for our conference.
Oh.
If you have in your packet, we have a board slate that we need to vote on. I'm going to call up everybody's name that is on this packet, and if you could please stand. Is Steve Bullock here? Okay, so Steve. We have Dawn. Dawn's here, but not at the moment. John Fay is here. Volpa is here. John Whipple, are you here? And Rhonda. Is there a motion to vote on this wonderful board slate?
It's all moved.
Is there a second? A second. Are all in favor?
Could I know what numbers made the motion and approved? Thank you.
Are all in favor of this wonderful slate? Sure, none are opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you very much for your commitment. Conference. I'm supposed to talk about the conference.
Just to let people know, you've got to save the date.
Save the date, May 19th, 2020, 2025. Save the date. Is there any other business that we'd like to conduct tonight? Anything at all? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Rhonda.
I'll make a motion. Okay, wonderful. Okay, I think we're all in favor. Okay, well, close out today. Enjoy. The sun is out. The wind is a little down, so that's good. And have a great day, everyone.